Yeah, next up, optimize H1 titles with SEO keywords. So one of the biggest things on any given page is the first H1. The
And Michael, just
header
as a what is an H1 for people that might not know what that is?
Yeah. So anytime you're looking at a web page, what's being shown to you by the browser is called markup language. It's not programming, it's markup programming. It's I think of it as being similar to a kindergarten classroom where a teacher has gone in at the beginning of the year and they've decided on this cork board to put a border around the board, and then in the top left quadrant to put this content, the top right quadrant to put this content, and then in the bottom half of the board to put content item number 3. So this is not necessarily architectural or doing anything dynamic. It's not programming. It's more just markup. It's telling stuff where to show up and how to look. And so a lot of this with websites is done with HTML and CSS. So as you're getting to do more marketing and getting more active and thinking about these things, you're going to hear some terms that are going to be a little bit like code, and it's okay to kind of get familiar. And once you hear the definition of these once, you'll remember it forever because they're pretty easy. But H1 is header 1. And
it's basically the big text, the big title on the page.
Yeah, the big title on the page. So it's like headline 1 or headline 1 is what it is. It's really headline is what it is.
And then usually H2 and H3 are smaller and smaller.
Yeah, and so you can have more than one H1 on a page, but if your text is set up the way that most websites would use H1, H2, H3, they're going to get to be smaller and smaller, and they form essentially an outline format that you can use throughout your page. So you can have a major title for the page being H1, but then subtitles for the page is H2s, and then if you have any interior titles in a body of copy in an H2, it can be an H3.
I didn't mean to rabbit trail there, but
no, that's great. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, as always, this podcast is for practitioners of marketing and people who are founders and business owners. It's not for website developers or SEO gurus. So yeah, so with when we get into thinking about these titles, this is really important. This first H1 on the page is one of the main anchors that Google is using to say, we know what this page is about because this is the title of the page. And so one of the traps people fall into is using something sort of abstract or creative. So like the title of the book might be A Day I'll Never Forget. But if it's a story about a train robbery, guess what? You need to say train robbery, a day I'll never forget. You need to get those keywords in there somehow, even if it's a little bit horsey.
And it shouldn't be your like byline, like your slogan or anything like that.
Yeah, you don't want it to be something so abstract and so indirect that you don't do the basic thing of saying what the page is about. Yeah. So when you're writing content for page titles, you have two audiences. One of your audiences is people. The other audience is search engines. And for a search engine, what you have to do is use very clear, direct language to say, this page is about this topic. And so these abstract or more creative, even more literary titles, they don't really translate over to the world of internet publishing when you're trying to raise your hand and say, we offer services in this market, or we're a dermatologist and you can come in and see us and get help with this particular medical condition. And a hack, if you need to, is to put the keyword that is really about at the beginning and then add a colon and then add something more descriptive if you feel you need to say something about how you do it differently. And then, of course, in these H1s, you're not going to use titles like in a or hyphens like in a URL. This is just going to be readable text. And we really like using title case, where the important words are all sort of uppercase, initial letter. But a lot of companies have tested and found that sentence case, even sentence case without punctuation, tends to work well for mobile devices. Okay. So I would say be open-minded about what you choose to do and try to do some testing. But yeah, those H1 titles absolutely have to have those good keywords.